The ancient figure of Ashwatthama provides a clinical mirror for the modern mind. This archetype illustrates the cycle of persistent trauma defining modern psychology. The core of the story rests on a single image, the wound that never healed. In our daily lives, that ancient curse takes the form of invisible pain. It is the lingering guilt, the unresolved trauma, and the quiet anger that follows us from our homes to our desks. These memories are a universal part of human biology. You are not dealing with an isolated weakness or a character flaw. Grab a pen and a piece of paper. Over the next 5 minutes, we are going to build your personal trauma management plan so you can begin to process this persistent guilt. By treating this ancient narrative as a medical framework, you gain a structured, concrete path to emotional healing. Let's build that path right now. Step 1 is identification. On your piece of paper, write down your top 3 recurring emotional wounds or chronic sources of stress. The feeling of accursed existence in ancient texts mirrors the exhaustion of our modern daily grind. We carry weights that feel impossible to put down. This graphic shows exactly how those mythic terms map to our reality. Guilt, trauma, and anger translate directly into modern clinical symptoms: burnout, anxiety, and chronic stress. You have to be careful here. Do not brush these feelings off as standard workplace stress or a temporary tough week. Denying the severity of the symptoms guarantees that the trauma will persist. When you look at your paper and assign precise clinical names to what you are feeling, you take the mandatory first step to neutralizing its power over your life. Now we move from abstract symptoms to physical mechanics. Persistent trauma is an anatomical reality happening inside your head. This diagram shows the brain's trauma centers, the amygdala processing fear, and hippocampus managing memory. They form a feedback loop, trapping memories in the present, keeping your nervous system hyper-aroused. This loop biologically mirrors the ancient curse of memories that never die. Next to the 3 emotional wounds on your paper, write down the specific physical triggers you feel when those memories surface, like a tight chest, an elevated heart rate, or shallow breathing. Understanding this physiological scarring is crucial. Because your burnout is actually driven by biological loops in your brain, you can stop evaluating it as a personal failure. With the biology clear, we can take action. You manage this physical scarring through precise daily habits. This document outlines your protocol. Practice 1 is the grounding anchor. You pick a specific sensory input, like the texture of your desk or the temperature of a glass of water, to intentionally pull your mind out of past memories and into the present moment. Practice 2 is guilt externalization. This is a 5-minute writing exercise where you physically write out the guilt you are carrying, process it on the page, and then literally throw the paper away to release the mental loop. Practice 3 is physical stress release. You choose a specific physical action, like mindful breathing or a short walk, to intentionally discharge the built-up tension from your nervous system. If you skip this 3rd step, the entire plan fails. The trauma remains trapped in your body's tissues, and the neurological loops will continue firing. The battle against internal trauma requires daily consistency. Executing these 3 habits every day gives your brain the repetition it needs to eventually rewire those hyperactive trauma centers. Once you establish this daily protocol at home, you can apply these exact same mechanisms to high-pressure work environments. To scale these habits, schedule them as formal 5-minute recovery blocks in your calendar. This moves the protocol from a personal exercise to a structured part of your professional workflow. Recognizing the Ashwatthama Syndrome within yourself alters how you operate. You begin to notice your stress spikes early, allowing you to make clear, grounded decisions rather than reacting from a place of emotional exhaustion. This document shows how these individual steps influence a team. When a leader models these grounding protocols, it replaces reactive panic with a predictable standard for handling high-pressure deadlines. Managing this physiological response directly prevents the recursive burnout that ends most careers. It allows for consistent performance and clear-headed leadership over the course of decades. Look at the notes you've taken. You now possess a professional, actionable plan to address your chronic stress and disrupt the neurological loops keeping you trapped. The immortal curse is not permanent. When you apply these practical steps, the wound finally begins to heal. You are armed with the tools you need. The battle within begins today. To deepen your understanding of the anatomy of eternal trauma and further develop your protocol, read The Ashwatthama Syndrome at ravendrapastor.com.